Thank you very much. As we're having the collab, let me at this point hand over the microphone to the most Reverend Professor Ibubike Onah to please address the Vice Chancellor.
Mr. Vice Chancellor,
Father Bishop, you can sit down.
I'm a teacher and a preacher.
I want to call them my bishop.
It's fine.
Okay.
Professor Charles Igwe, Ekenemi, Kenekwundore. I greet all of you and I bring you peace and blessing in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. I am happy to be here. I always feel happy to be in this community and this environment. I come here to return a good gesture from the Vice Chancellor and his team. The Vice Chancellor, Professor Igwe, shortly after his appointment as the new 15th Vice Chancellor of the university, called on me to introduce himself and express his willingness to continue the collaboration and good relationship that have characterized the nearness between the church and this university community since its foundation. It was my intention to return this visit as early as possible, but different circumstances, not the least the confusion created by the coronavirus pandemic, have altered all our arrangements, and we are still struggling to catch up since then. So, Mr. Vice Chancellor, I would ask you to please pardon this lateness in returning your visit. It wasn't deliberate. You know, of course, that I've kept contact with you even before making this visit to assure you of my prayers and even venture some pieces of advice where I felt it was expedient. I bring you also the reassuring presence of my immediate collaborators. The priests you see here are only representative of the 300 plus priests working in this diocese. And of course, we bring the representatives also of the highest consultative body in the Diocesan Pastoral Council. When you claim Barrister Obai and claim Dr. Mrs. Ekweme and claim Reverend Father Dr. Nnamani and claim Reverend Father Dr. Sebastian Onah and claim Reverend Father Dr. George Abba, and who else do you want to claim? That shows you what the Ezago people would say. No, me, nonitaso. We are all part of the same family. There is really no clear distinction, except for administrative purposes, between the two communities. As I come, I also want to thank and congratulate the university community under your leadership for the relentless effort to keep this university at the standard that we have always been proud of and for which the university had been known in these very difficult and challenging circumstances. As the chairman of the governing council of two universities, I am aware of what you are going through. And I will not be surprised if you are encountering greater problems than your predecessors with regard to funding, with regard to listening ear, with regard to many other things that would have made it easier for you to run a university, for two main reasons. One, our economy has long crumbled. Ndị bụ unu, ọ bụrụ ndị bụ unu ndị ọbụba, nọ ndị bụ unu ndị Anambra, na-asị na ya bụ anụ efepugo na akwụkwọ na-emegharịzi. The economy has crumbled. We are only pretending we still have one, because otherwise it is impossible to explain how a few years ago our money is worth less than 1/3. Our money today is worth less than 1/3 of what it was worth a few years ago, and the income of the citizens has not increased. I am aware of a situation where people who shape the minds of Nigerians are considered less important than those who manipulate the system to their own selfish gains. Every day our professors have to quarrel and struggle and hit the streets in order to be paid pittance. And people who do nothing except quarrel in chambers carry away sacks of money. That is one reason the economy has crumbled. The second reason, I will give a Latin principle and translate it in English, but I will not explain. In Latin you hear, nemo dat quod non habet. Nobody gives what he does not have. You can't expect leaders to offer you what they don't have. It's not surprising that university education is allowed to decay. Another thing I will say is that it is on record in this country, and in every country in the world, and every civilization, that education is the greatest instrument that can be used to fight oppression and dictatorship. And universities are the #1 enemy of dictators. I am not saying we have dictatorship now, but you can draw your conclusions. Oh yes, they say that in a democracy, the government is afraid of the people. And in a dictatorship, the people are afraid of the government. So judge for yourselves. So I thank you for the effort you're making. We will always notice what is lacking. And that is human nature, because we want a perfect society. Nobody is interested in the efforts you are making. But we all see the lacks, and we point those lacks out first. You know, I tell you, when I see even the environment being cleared, grass being cut and gutters being cleared, except that those who clear your gutters bring the sand, leave them there, and they will fall back there. And when they manage not to fall back, grass will grow on the gutter and our roads are reduced. You know that. So we notice those ones, but not all of us will even notice whether the ranking of the university is climbing, because some are too lazy to check that. But if anything goes wrong, we are all online. We are online to see when something goes wrong in the university, but we're not online to see when something is going very well. So, jisike genendo tuku. I also want to thank you and the university administration for the friendly relationship and collaboration that has existed between this university and our diocese. Of course, the church is older than the university in Nsukka, but the university is older than the diocese. But since the erection of the diocese, the relationship between the two has been very, very exemplary. And my own experience is right from my own ordination. This university offered me accommodation and hospitality along with my guests. And when my guests left, I remained here for more than 1 month. And also, even whenever we have events attracting certain class of guests, the university always throws open its most elite guest house to accommodate my guests. I don't take that for granted. And I also want to put on record the collaboration between the university and the church, and our diocese in particular, in the formation of the students. When your students graduate, you testify that they have reached they have distinguished themselves in knowledge and character. Yes, you may be experts in imparting knowledge, but we are professionals in forming character. And that is why I plead that the relationship between the university administration and the chaplaincies, whether Catholic or non-Catholic, the relationship does not just remain at the level of offering prayers. For instance, this university could help the chaplaincies establish centers for listening and counseling of students and staff. Let us also bear in mind that the formation of the human being is integral, not just academic, but human, moral, and so many other dimensions. So this collaboration is indispensable, especially today, in which our society is getting more complex and education has become a multi-layered process. Well, professors of education are here, so I'm not entering their field. But I want to tell you there is a danger in modern education. All of us who are engaged in formal education of the youth should know that we have lost more than 70% of our power to anonymous manipulators in the social media. Most of our young people obtain the knowledge they trust more from people who have no names and no faces than from those of us who are risking our livelihood to impart knowledge on them. That makes our work very challenging, not just for academics, but also for religion. We are in a world of freelance religion, where people pick and choose, do it yourself, without the responsibility that religious life and organization imply. So that is what makes it very difficult now, not just imparting of knowledge, but also formation of character. And we want to reaffirm our readiness to continue to collaborate with the university in that regard. Finally, I would want to thank all of you and remind all of us that the University of Nigeria is the pride of every Nsukka man. Bisi Ebenwa Nsukka. If Nigeria was more civilized than we are now, in your passport, your town of origin would be in Nsukka, not that place that doesn't even see you more than once a year. But we keep clinging to the criteria used by our ancestors who didn't travel much. And we're using that as criteria for judging our own affiliations. But apart from this joke or light moment, all of us in this area, this university is our pride. Whatever happens to this university happens to all of us. That is why we cannot just be disinterested spectators, expect in the sense, the philosophical sense of Pythagoras, in which spectators are those who are more objective to see things that are being done rightly in a stadium and things that are being done wrongly. Only in that sense can we be spectators, because we can then afford the distance that permits us some objectivity. but not in the sense that we're not involved. As Chakwaro Ibo Prof, we are the church's official men of prayer. One of the challenges of modern Nigerian culture, religious culture, is that there is so much pressure on religious leaders and ministers to intervene in the secular field. And people want to drag us away from prayer and the sanctuary and put us on the streets. So that people who are not trained in prayer, charlatans I call them, will take over the sanctuary space. So we insist on remaining in the sanctuary. But from the sanctuary, we run out to the streets to see what is happening. Why I'm saying this is that we are praying for you. And we shall continue to pray for you. So whatever observation we make is because we come out and peep in the streets and we take up our observations to God Himself until Chinoke. May God continue to bless you and your team. Thank you very much, Mr. Vice Chancellor.